Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Rendon with KTVU, Fox 2 News out of the San Francisco Bay Area. And joining us today is Fiona Ma, Treasurer for the state of California. Thanks so much for being with us today. Our topic of conversation is the census. And this is really interesting because it affects every single person, not just in California, but really in the United States.
Exactly. The federal government gives something like $1 trillion to the states, and they usually allocate it based on some sort of census-related data. So California traditionally is always undercounted because of our diverse population and many languages and mistrust of government, a number of reasons. And we typically have about 11 million people that are really hard to count, and that's what we're trying to do through this campaign.
When you say 11 million people, was that 10 years ago at the last census where we believe there were people who were undercounted?
Well, we've always had some sort of undercounting. So right now, our target population is especially 11 million people who we feel are hard to count and could go undercounted in this upcoming census.
What do you think is the message that people need to understand in order for them to participate?
Well, we depend on a lot of different services and programs, whether it's for seniors, public safety, childcare, Medi-Cal, food, affordable housing, and a lot of the allocations we get is from the federal government. So we want to make sure that we are counted so that we get our fair share of resources for the programs and services that Californians depend on.
Can you go into detail about that? What specifically are we talking about in terms of services? Where would this money be allocated?
Okay, so the federal government has a pot of money, and in the 50 states, right, put in applications for different pots of money, whether it's childcare, preschool, Head Start programs. We get affordable housing tax credits allocated to us from the federal government, the parks, money for transportation. So everything we do here in California, we get some sort of allocation from the federal government. So pretty much everything that is big and important and big programs get also funding from the feds.
And a lot of outreach has been done to target those communities that may not get the message or may not know that they should be filling out the census. Can you talk a little bit about some of the outreach programs that are going on?
Right. Traditionally, the census hires a lot of folks to go door to door and make sure that they get someone to fill out the census, and it's usually someone in language. But because of COVID-19 right now, nobody is coming door to door, so we are really trying to do outreach either like through webinars, through the news media, through community nonprofits, but it is not always dependable because we're not sure people are going to log on to the website www.my2020census.gov to fill out that form. So we are going to continue to follow up and remind folks that this is super important. For every person not counted, it is equivalent to $1,000 per year for the next 10 years that we are losing in vital federal dollars to California.
Okay, and you mentioned that website. I'm going to bring up the page here where we show this actual website. Welcome to the 2020 Census. Quick, easy, 2020 Census questionnaire will take 10 minutes to complete. I mean, do you think that people are getting the message here?
Well, that's what we're hoping. Thank you for spreading the word. It takes actually less than 2 minutes. I've done it myself. There's 9 confidential questions. They're very easy to answer, and we just really want people during this time when they are home and on their computers to take a couple minutes to fill out this form and be counted.
So right here where it says please log in, is this 12-digit ID something they should have received in the mail?
Yes, they will get an official U.S. Census letter in the mail that has your 12-digit census ID. And if you don't have it, you can also click on, if you do not have a census ID, click here, and then they will verify you by other means.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, and then they start asking you the questions here.
Right.
Okay, sounds good. And then there's also talk, I know, like, for example, I reached out to the Latino Community Foundation at the beginning of the month. There was a National Census Day, a big push to let people know hey, we want you to fill out the census. And there was some talk and concern that they don't want people to come door to door because a lot of people, maybe if they're undocumented or their status here legally in the country, they don't have the right paperwork. They're concerned of having people come knock door to door. So right now, I think is the time they say, you're at home, you can log on to your computer and you can fill out the form right now. I think that's kind of an important message too, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be that you are documented or what your legal status is. It's really if you are living here, we want you to be counted.
And I'm going to pull up the next thing that I wanted to show, which was one of the commercials that you guys made. Can you just talk about what went into this type of commercial? I know it's only 30 seconds long, so we're going to play the spot here. And you can tell us what went into this.
Yeah, so obviously we are targeting harder to reach populations. As you can see, many of us come from countries where they're communists, for example, and they're not used to dealing with the government or hearing from the government unless you're doing something bad. So we really are just trying to highlight that, number one, everyone is important. As you can see, it is very diverse, the people that are in the commercials, but that we really want everyone, whether you're old, whether you're young, whether you're a different ethnicity group, everybody needs to be counted. And again, it doesn't have to depend on your legal immigration status at all.
And you were mentioning the coronavirus right now has kind of changed things. Typically, would have had a deadline that was much earlier. What is the deadline to fill out, and how has coronavirus really affected the results or the response?
Yeah, so the deadlines have been pushed out to, the last I saw was October 31st. So until then, people are gonna follow up and try to kind of chase these census forms so that they get back. So we want people to let us know who was living in that household as of April 1st of this year. And the extension is going to go until October 31st right now.
There's also some talk that the results of the census determine how we are represented at the federal level in terms of Congress. Can you explain that?
Right. So the number of representatives that we have in the lower house or the Congress, House of Representatives, is dependent on census-related data. Also, how many people we get in the Electoral College, which also plays a role in the presidential races, also is determined by the number of people that we have in the state. So if we are undercounted, we may have less representation in our federal government. And so that is another important use of this census data.
How has California done so far? Do we know how our response rate is at this point?
I haven't checked yet. Obviously, this COVID-19, we're in week 6 and this new normal. So we are doing a lot of different campaigns to try to make sure that we have, we're doing as much outreach as we can, but we haven't gotten those numbers yet, but that's a good question. And perhaps try to find out how we're doing so far.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people were doing, like you said, the mailers are going out, and it is required by law. I think people don't understand or realize sometimes, like, you are obligated as a person living in America to do this. So I think that that's a big message to get out there as well.
Right, that and jury duty, very important.
That and jury, do your jury duty and fill out your census. Okay, right. And so there was also a clip that was sent to us that was made in Oakland, California. And I know if you're watching and you're on the East Coast or you're in the heartland of America, this is a really good video to kind of get a feel for just Oakland. It was shot in beautiful places all around Oakland and really talked about how every voice needs to be counted. And I want to play that now so that everyone can see. I'm going to share the screen one more time and we'll listen in here. And I'm just going to let this play. And then we can, there's the other one. I'm going to let this new one play and I'll just have it run out on its own. So here we go.
Without you, a change can't come. The change we need to see in our education and health systems, families, culture, shelter, love starts with us. Rising above in the face of opposition, don't get it twisted. This world needs you, needs to see you stand up for who you are. Stand and show them what unity is about. Count yourself in, no matter who might have counted you out. In 2020, let's take the census and represent our communities. Black and brown, loud and proud to our Asian, Pacific Islander, indigenous brothers and sisters, our LGBTQ family, disabled loved ones, veterans, seniors. Whether 0 to 100, your existence is valuable. So stand, speak, be heard. It's your turn. Take part in the count that will bring resources and funds back to our homes, our schools, our families, our people. We know what it is to be underrepresented, so let's fix it. Be counted so that this world can't leave us defenseless, no matter what country you come from, no matter who you choose to love, no matter your income, you're human, and the narrative can change if we stand as one, remembering that our actions are not only for now, but for the generation coming behind us. So believe that not only do you matter, but the voice inside you proves you have a right to be seen. I count. You count too.
That was very powerful, wouldn't you say?
It was, and I think those type of ads are really trying to captivate folks who live in Oakland, right? I mean, when you see something that's familiar, you're like, oh, that's the theater, or that's the lake, and that's, you know, my neighborhood. So just trying to, I think, make people feel comfortable that they are part of this campaign, their vote or their voice or their, you know, filling in the form is really, really important. So I really like that campaign. It just brings things home to a community.
Is there anything else I'm leaving out that you want to add that people should know as they move forward, because they are at home now and they have the time to fill out the census?
Well, I think we pretty much mentioned everything that it is just so important for us to be counted, not only in terms of dollars coming from the federal government, but also representation in Congress, as well as during the presidential elections. The number of electoral college votes that we have is also dependent on the census. So please help us, please be counted so that we make sure that all the programs and services are available to all Californians.
Do you happen to know what dollar amount we might be falling in once everyone fills out the census, how much money we stand to receive?
Well, each year, over $1 trillion, according to some of these studies, gets allocated to the states based on census-related data. So depending on how many people we have, or how many people are undercounted, each undercounted person is about $1,000 per person per year over the next 10 years.
You mentioned that earlier. I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully we can get the word out, no matter if you live East Coast, West Coast. It is our duty to do so, and it doesn't take very long, just a few minutes of your time. And I think really everyone should be able to do so right now, because we're at home, and what else do we have to do? So please take the time to do it. Fiona Ma, any final words?
That's it. Thank you for being counted. You're important to us.
Thank you so much, Fiona Ma. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.